taller than you are, so we'll see how we can make this work. First, I'd like to express my appreciation for being invited to speak here tonight. It's important for me to continue to share my story as many times as someone is willing to listen. My name is Brooke Rush. As mentioned, I'm a sister survivor with Erica of Dr. Jack Bartow, though I dropped doctor from his name a long time ago. Days prior to my 12th birthday, Bartow assaulted me while at an appointment for suspected appendicitis. I wasn't alone in the room. A nurse, 2 med students, and my father were all there. My father was close enough that I could have flexed my foot and touched his shoulder. They were completely unsuspecting of the evil in their presence. Bartow had the ability to mask his malfeasance as to not mar his well-perfected reputation of the good doctor, the volunteer, the coach, the school board member, and the churchgoer. That evening, I told my mother that Bartow had touched me somewhere he shouldn't have. It was 1988, and conversations of that nature just weren't as easily or openly had, in my household at least. I was too embarrassed to use the words it would have taken to describe those terrifying and painful moments in that room with burgundy walls. My mother assumed, as any mother would when referring to the highly regarded pediatrician, that I was maybe uncomfortable by him brushing over my chest accidentally or something of that nature. That was the last time I spoke of it in 1988, but it wasn't the last thought that I had of it. So at just 11 years old, I was stricken with a sense of confusion that lasted nearly and constantly for years before I was able to reconcile what had happened. It didn't feel like a moment went by without replaying the scene in my mind over and over to try to figure out if it was right or wrong. My internal dialogue went something like, he was a doctor, so it had to have been okay. It felt wrong, but surely because there were other people in the room, it had to have been right. It wasn't until I became a mother myself at the young age of 17 in 1994, and I took my infant son to Johnstown Pediatrics when I finally came to terms with what had transpired. The moment I saw Bartow again, I knew. He happened to be the doctor who would see my son that day. I sat frozen with my infant on my lap while he rolled his stool over to us and pressed my knees together between his own knees during the routine checkup of my baby. It all rushed back, like the floodgates had been opened, and for the first time, I was having to face the fact that I was molested, but I didn't feel like there was anything I could do, being that it was so many years before. I was relieved in '98 when I heard of the accusations against him by the Brave families, and he subsequently had his license suspended. I thought of coming forward, but the community rallying around the monster that had haunted me for years prevented me from doing so. Why would anyone believe me from 10 years before if they didn't believe those trying to stop him now? The PA Board of Medicine awarded back his license to practice in 2000. That decision was in part based on their perception of how long it took the parents to pursue the case and his standing in the community, as though his participation on the school board somehow precluded him from being labeled a pedophile. As his victim, I was delivered the message loud and clear. He was untouchable, and the community would protect him. I remember hoping that even though he wasn't punished, this would be the end. I falsely believed that his fear of a repeat accusation being believed or seen as a pattern would prevent him from ever doing something like that again. I didn't know then what I know now. Pedophiles don't get better. They cannot be healed of this evil. I was devastated when the news broke again in 17. I felt personally responsible for every single child that he harmed from 1988 to that moment. I was not going to let another opportunity pass without doing everything I could to make sure he never hurt anyone again. Excuse me. That's what leads me here today. The reality is that I spent most of my adult life knowing this happened without ever associating any of my issues with the assault. Standing with my survivor sisters at his sentencing, listening to their victim impact statement struck me and, in a sense, shook me to the core. There were so many commonalities that couldn't be explained any other way. There is one very positive thing I gained that day on his exam table. I learned to be tough, even though it was by necessity. Staying quiet about something I wanted to scream about was hardening on my soul. But today I have turned that around and instead used this experience for good. I am tough enough to tell my story, even if people insinuate that I am being untruthful. I am strong enough to debunk those who say our parents should have known better. I am unwavering in my resolve to make sure that I have done everything I can to prevent other children from living my same story. I am relentless enough to be certain I will not stop until the laws surrounding the statute of limitations are changed. Most importantly, allowing a window to justice for the sake of people who would otherwise be unable to obtain justice and the closure they deserve. This is how I have begun to heal. We are on a mission to make sure that everyone is afforded the same opportunity for justice, regardless of age, regardless of how long it took to finally work up the courage. There isn't a cure for pedophilia, but as survivors, we can potentially help to cure someone's inability to report their abuser by repeatedly displaying the courage to speak out whenever we can. If I can encourage just one person to confront their abuse and take back control, transitioning themselves from victim to survivor, I can finally put to rest the guilt I carried from being too scared to come forward for so many years myself. There is a strong sense of family among my fellow survivors. From the moment I came forward, I've been surrounded by love and support of strangers that I feel like I've known a lifetime. My circle of friends grew exponentially. We are in this battle together. We have each other's backs. The strength of our camaraderie will be too much for the systems that failed us, and we will fight as a united front until change happens. I'll leave you with two things that I have said since I started to speak out that seem to resonate with people. I usually don't get this choked up. I talk about having a missing piece, and imagine getting to the bottom of a 1,000-piece puzzle, and you have the whole thing completed. You get in that box and you realize that the last piece is missing. Without justice, that's what it feels like. That my life will always have that piece missing. So we're fighting to make sure everyone can have justice. And the other thing is that courage is contagious. Why do I say that? I say it because it took a very brave person that started what turned into the domino effect that took Jack Bartow down. That person's bravery affected all of the rest of us, encouraged us to step up and take part of what was the end of his 45-year reign of abuse. I know for a fact that even my courage has been contagious to others, as someone very near and dear to me was able to finally report her abuser as a result of the participation in the Bartow case. Courage is contagious. So I challenge you tonight. You can be courage, borrow courage, steal courage, fake courage, lend courage, but most importantly, and however you encounter courage, share it. Thank you.